India's courts are building a precedent wall against political speech lawfare, and the consensus read is already outdated. What matters now is the second-order effect most commentary still ignores. We will map trigger, incentive shift, and downstream impact before the close. File a sedition case, freeze your opponent in legal proceedings for 18 to 24 months, drain their campaign resources, generate negative news cycles. Between 2014 and 2024, over 1,200 of these cases were filed against opposition figures. The math was brutal and it worked, and then something shifted. And nobody's really talking about it, non-April 29, 2026, the Allahabad High Court dismissed yet another petition seeking criminal proceedings against Rahul Gandhi. This played as routine political drama. But zoom out, and the pattern becomes undeniable. Indian higher courts have now rejected 14 consecutive attempts to criminalize opposition political speech since January 2025. That's not a coincidence. That's a judicial doctrine taking shape, and the success rate for political speech prosecutions has collapsed from 73% before 2024 to just 12% now. The Karnataka High Court quashed proceedings against 3 opposition MLAs over rally speeches. The Delhi High Court dismissed a sedition case within 48 hours. The Bombay High Court set aside an FIR against a journalist for a documentary. What changed? The Supreme Court's guidelines in November 2024 raised the bar. Criticism of government policy, even heated criticism, doesn't equal sedition unless it contains explicit calls for violence. Courts are enforcing that standard and this is the part that matters. With legal intimidation increasingly futile, India's political parties are redirecting those resources into something far more sophisticated. Hyper-targeted digital narrative warfare, and major parties have increased their digital spending by 340% since January 2025. The BJP's IT cell budget for 2026 to 27 reportedly exceeds 850 crore rupees, that's about $102 million. Congress and regional parties collectively spend an estimated 1,400 crore. What are they buying? AI-powered micro-targeting systems that create 50,000 unique ad variations tested across demographic segments. Real-time sentiment analysis tools monitoring 847 million social media accounts in 23 languages. Deepfake detection systems. Regional influencer networks paying 12,000 to 15,000 nano-influencers 8 to 25,000 rupees per month for what looks like authentic political content. And India's political technology sector is exploding. In 2020, it barely existed. Now it employs over 47,000 people across 230 specialized firms. VoxPulse Analytics raised $31 million in March 2026 for multilingual political sentiment analysis. Narrative Shield, a Delhi startup, secured $18 million for AI systems that detect and counter political misinformation within 90 seconds of posting, /n. But here's where it gets interesting. 3 second-order effects are reshaping Indian democracy. First, regional language digital infrastructure is exploding. English and Hindi political content is saturated. The growth frontier is Kannada, Telugu, Bengali, Tamil, Marathi. Between January and April 2026, venture funding into regional language content platforms hit $340 million, more than the previous 3 years combined. The party that controls regional digital distribution by 2028 controls narrative flow to 600 million voters who don't consume English language media. Expect aggressive acquisitions of regional news apps and content creator networks throughout 2026 and 2027, /n. Second, the judicial precedent creates unexpected policy stability. When legal harassment worked, opposition leaders spent cognitive energy on courtroom strategy instead of governance alternatives. With that threat neutralized, we're seeing the most substantive policy debates in a decade. In April 2026 alone, opposition parties released white papers on UPI infrastructure expansion, semiconductor fab localization, healthcare AI integration. NASCOM. The Internet and Mobile Association of India publicly praised opposition technology policy proposals for the first time since 2019. If both coalitions are forced to compete on execution rather than litigation, sectors like fintech, healthtech, and climate technology get bipartisan support windows that haven't existed since 2008-2014. And third, international investors are recalibrating political risk. Sovereign wealth funds and PE firms model political stability as a key variable. The judicial firewall against speech prosecutions is reducing perceived volatility risk. Sources at Singapore-based funds told me they've upgraded India's regime transition stability score. Translation: expect 8 to 12% increases in long-term infrastructure and technology foreign direct investment throughout 2026 to 27 as investors price in functional opposition and predictable policy cycles. And now the risks. Deepfake saturation is the obvious dark scenario. If 30 to 40% of political content becomes synthetic by 2028, and detection becomes unreliable, you get information collapse. In Karnataka's April 2026 by-elections, at least 7 viral videos were confirmed deepfakes, reaching 23 million combined views before debunking. Regional digital echo chambers could fragment national discourse. If Telugu, Tamil, and Bengali digital ecosystems develop entirely separate truth layers with zero cross-pollination, India becomes 6 to 8 parallel information universes with no shared epistemic baseline. And judicial doctrine reversal remains possible, though current trends suggest it's unlikely before 2028, and the constructive path forward. India's election commission should partner with technology platforms on mandatory political ad transparency. Brazil's 2025 model, real-time disclosure of digital spend, targeting parameters, and sponsor identity, reduced misinformation by 34%. Technology platforms now have legal cover to aggressively moderate coordinated inauthentic behavior without accusations of censorship. And civil society needs to build multilingual media literacy infrastructure. If 2,100 crore flows into political persuasion technology, spending even 100 crore on digital literacy creates meaningful immunity. And the Allahabad High Court dismissal isn't just another political headline. It's the visible signal of an invisible judicial wall making political lawfare obsolete in India. That's forcing a $2.1 billion redirection into digital narrative technology. Creating opportunity, political tech jobs, policy-focused governance, reduced investor risk. And genuine danger, deepfake saturation, echo chamber fragmentation. The next 18 months determine whether this produces a more functional democracy or a more sophisticated manipulation apparatus. Either way, the courtroom-to-code migration is the most underreported story shaping India's 2029 elections. And it's happening right now.